I've devised a new month called Spleguary.
All right.
Yeah, how do you feel about that?
What's it? Where does it go?
Well, I feel like there's too many embers, right? You've got November, December, and September. Then you only have January and February. I think we need another Uary.
Well, what
And I think
about
Spleguary is what?
and Oons and?
Yeah, but they're not. There's not more than one of any of them.
Yeah, it's weird, really.
But then October doesn't actually have the exact same ending as the other ones it's surrounded by, but it's still in the same sort of. It's like September, October, November, and December feel like such a unified set of months, and that's because they are in a lot of ways, and especially in name.
Hey, what part is we don't really have time to dick around?
Well, you were talking about Terraria, and you weren't like, you're usually the one who gets to start. I was getting really confused.
So your screen.
What?
This is the thingy, right? I need to see the questions, don't I?
Forgot about that. Oh! Chances are you're familiar with this by now, actually, considering what the last one.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. It's a dev Q&A. It's a it's not really. It's not a transcript, really. I still don't know how accurate the quotes really are. This is all taken from Ghost Ship's dev streams, where they answer questions, and it is our best insight into the development of the game. This is the January version.
Yeah, January 2023, depending on how long this series goes on for.
And there's a lot of stuff that they have to answer multiple times, right? A lot.
They get to ask the same question, like in the same stream, let alone over the series of a month.
We are going to be very strict with ourselves. We've covered a lot of their answers to the repeated questions, things like new classes, or that's it really. But we're going to be quite strict to ourselves in sort of skipping over things that have been answered before, or you could find the answers to in previous videos, unless their response warrants it. How we're going to be doing it. So we're also just going to be better at this than usual, as in we're going to get right into this right now. What's the first one? Suggestion: damage dealt on the end screen. They don't want people to compete for damage dealt. A kill is to kill. The game's not about that. Now, I actually kind of agree with them on this. I used to not agree with them because I just like the idea. I think people want to see the damage actually because it might be like helpful on the technical side of things. Yeah, people like big numbers.
Big number.
I think damage numbers is a better idea.
I think it's
people
also
competing for kills anyway, kind of. I don't think it's going to make it more competitive. I don't.
No, yeah, because it's pretty obvious, right? In that like scouts are never going to have that much like killing or damage. Really, they're still going to be at the bottom end. Whoever has the most kills has probably also got the most damage as well, right? I think that's also a fair thing to assume.
Every mission, isn't it?
Yeah,
like mainly elimination and industrial sabotage, arguably, and it'd be helpful. You can see who really does the most DPS. You can have someone with low kills compared to high damage, and that would be interesting to see. At the same time, not every person needs that. I feel like a mod could be made for that, and then people would just sort of find out through that, and then it would just sort of be understood who's the best at what. It doesn't need to be an actual feature or its usefulness to be apparent.
Yeah, although I think it's already kind of known.
Yeah, there's also that as well.
Yeah, like it's just I don't know. It would like say some things, but like it's not saying much more. But I do think the argument of they don't want to compete for damage dealt makes much sense, because is that implying that they do want people to compete, just that they don't think that's a value enough thing, or do they not like the idea of people competing?
I don't think that like the idea of people competing.
Either way, the logic doesn't really equal out, since showing any of the stats is inherently like a thing, right? Because when that's all you're really looking at the end of the screen, you're always like, I got more kills than you, or stuff like that. I mean, that's kind of inevitable. But like, the damage dealt would then, I don't know, do something for that. Like, I got more kills than you. You're like, but I've got like double your damage. Like, you'll be able to fight back, I guess. But point is that it would be a nice idea, but they clearly don't want to do it. Like, it's like a pretty hard no.
Yeah, I still think labels for like what people did like the best at in the mission is like something, you know, labels like gold digger, mined the most gold in this mission. I think that stuff. I don't see how that could really become competitive, because you're not going to know what you did the best at until the mission's over anyway. It can sort of just be like
Just one for like
very dopamine.
Everyone would always have something.
Yeah, I remember Titanfall 2's Frontier Defense had that, and that was actually pretty cool. There was, yeah, so it's that. Wow, new perks.
Yeah.
What do you know?
This is an example of one that we've seen a lot of times, and this is the same answer. They want to do it at some point.
Yep, and they will. That means they will, basically, because it's not like they've said they're going to do anything else. So that's how we sort of look at it.
It is new perks, and if it comes up, new perks and new overclocks are like at some point. Those are the responses, and we'll probably see that throughout this video. So yeah, we're going to be skipping over unless for some reason they start saying no more. But I don't think that's going to be the case.
New mission in Season 4. They want to add more, but it's not yet settled what Season 4 is going to have. Now, Season 4 doesn't necessarily need a new mission type, but we look at the date. It's about a month ago. I think they probably know what they're doing now, at least. Doesn't mean they've got very far into it. But this is just about asking for a new mission. There's reasons why I'd like to see a new mission. I'd like to see it in place of another warning, but that's really where that stops.
I just see, once again, a new mission is a risk. I think they could see it as a risk because how poorly the mission went down this. But I think they really just have to make this mission just be a normal one. Just make it a normal mission in the normal pool from the get-go. And people will be a lot more responsive to it. But obviously, that's not really what their issue with it. It's just that they don't really know what they're doing yet, at least when they said this. So it's on the table, like any piece of content I imagine is for them. But yeah, not much to be gained up in the fact that at the beginning of the year, they still didn't know what they were doing for Season 4. At least they didn't want to admit that they know what they're doing, but that doesn't really make sense if they wanted to do that.
Suggestion. A Menace plushie. There are plushies on the Good Smell website. I know they have a loot bug. No plans for Menace. That's fine. Who's really going to buy a Menace plushie?
I've seen like kind of scuffed, glyphed plushies around. Like they're really like weird looking and like bloated. But yeah, Menaces. I don't know. I think Menace would be a good plushie. Menaces would be. They're a nice shape.
They actually are.
Yeah. Or Menaces would be like, you know those weird things that you have like sucker cups on and you stick them to like walls. Menaces should be one of them. That you just kind of like stick them in the like side of your shower and there's just a menace on the wall. Something like that would be more Menace style.
Okay. Suggestion. Achievements for being drunk on missions might not be the most fun experience. It's not something we're supposed to do. I don't really know what they mean by that. I think this would be fine as an achievement. I don't think there should be really any other incentives for being drunk, like in-game. There shouldn't be some kind of warning that makes you drunk or anything like that, because that's not good for people. People shouldn't have to be drunk in a mission.
Yeah.
But as an achievement, that's absolutely fine, I think. They could.
The issue is you get de-drunk as time passes. So if it's like any mission longer than like 10, 20 minutes, even if you go in there like as drunk as you possibly can be, you'll be sober by the time you're leaving.
Well, I think a decent achievement would be like finish a mission like while drunk the whole time. But this is specifically an achievement, right? As in an achievement outside of the game, not an in-game thing like a milestone or just like a warning that makes you drunk. They shouldn't do that. But I think an achievement would be fine.
Achievements can be fun. Like, I literally got one the other day of having a barrel in each chair. Like it could be going into a mission while drunk would be a fine achievement to have. And it's just something that people would accidentally do because they drank too much, but they didn't think about de-drunking themselves, or they thought they would test seeing what going into a mission would be like. I think just a simple going to a mission drunk would be a very easy achievement to just have, just like 10 achievement points or whatever it is on whatever system, just of a small thing that like nods the fact that you've done that. I don't think it has to be a big thing.
No,
but yeah.
Suggestion. Error cube usage. No official plans, but they've talked about possible options. I think it's good to know that they have talked about possible options, but I also think that means they don't have a decided canon.
Well, I think I think it is definitely worth noting that they're not just happy with the fact that they're not going to do anything. They clearly want to kind of actually bring them back in some way.
Well, yeah, actually, to be fair, I think they do probably have a canon, but this is about the use of them. Which isn't needed, by the way, necessarily.
The thing is that error cubes as a feature were always just kind of like I really like the idea behind them. Obviously, I've heard it say from their mouths, but it's just like a random thing that has no purpose in the caves. Right, that's the error cubes. They're just like, what the hell is this? That's the purpose of it. And obviously, giving it a purpose would remove that part of it. But I still think
they also wouldn't want it to be like a very hard to discover purpose either.
Yeah,
but that would be better for the error cube. But they wouldn't want to do that because they like things to be accessible.
The other issue is error cubes are incredibly rare. You can't have them being a prominent purpose in the game, or no one will ever get it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they are not common. We've been playing, I'm level 450 or something now, I think, and I've gotten like 40 error cubes, right? Like, it's very difficult to find something that you could do with those when you get so little of them so unreliably.
The error cube usage would be better spun off into an error-themed event or season, really, where you would have things going on that sort of replicate that aesthetic and delve into what that means, like what error type enemies would look like, or possibly other things like terrain manipulation. The cubes themselves probably aren't going to get a use, but I think what they I think what they represent could be spun off into more features though. But the error cubes themselves are probably going to stay fixed. That's how I see it. I don't know if that's how they see it though.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like we can just skip over this stuff basically.
And Twitch integration. I think we've had these questions before as well. Like, they just don't really see a reason for it.
But Twitch drops. They said those cosmetics would probably get added to the game later.
Yeah.
They
don't like doing
they wouldn't make
that.
them like Twitch themed cosmetics anyway. It just doesn't work for them.
Yeah, or Twitch only stuff. Like, that's not the way they add cosmetics. So. And that's their answer, and that's what their answer has been a couple of times, because I think they've been asked that. But
PvP,
and
they
same
don't
with this
want any
one.
of that.
PvP.
That's obviously we've seen a lot of this. Steampunk's not a PvP game, and it's like as it is, it doesn't work very well. There's not like very clear feedback to like shoot your friends or anything. It's not built to be easy to turn to a PvP game even. And it isn't one. I think there is still room for competitive mechanics though, and a want for those. But PvP, forget about it.
Yeah.
Idiots.
This next one's getting wild. You can kind of tell like what like the kind of stream was. Like, people were obviously trying to pitch like a slightly alternate versions of the game at this point, but yeah. The open world version of Deep Rock Galactic. Yeah, it's just that
cool,
we'll do the answer.
Even as the cave generation is, it is pretty heavy on RAM usage. Because I feel like this might have been what exploration mode was supposed to be. It would just be an infinitely generating mission, basically. But I think that's the point of how would it even be possible? Like, how would you make it feel like an open world without it just being too demanding? Because what you would do is have it like be like multiple like connected caves that you would like, but you would have to load between each one. There'd be something like that, and it wouldn't really sell the idea very well. And also, I don't know what the purpose of an open world Deep Rock Galactic would be, like this game specifically. It's so focused on being set in caves. I feel like that environment exclusively doesn't really work for open world.
And another thing is with the theme of the game, it kind of implies that like you're not supposed to stay down there, right? Like, you barely survive in like the 20 minutes you pop in and out, right? You don't want to stay down there for an extended period of time. Like, that's not the kind of planet it is made out to be. So I think for all like gameplay, world reasons, and like just like RAM reasons, it's just not really plausible. But once again, like with both of these things, PvP and open world version, I think there is merit if they wanted to make a new game but not separate it entirely from the Deep Rock universe and like that kind of sphere. They could just use deep proc to then make those type of games. Like a dwarven based PvP game with like those weapons in would be pretty cool. Like this is obviously why people want it, and an open world version with those dwarves would be pretty cool. But obviously, as deep proc is right now, they can't just add that onto it. It would have to be its own game. And yeah, they're I think they're fine with it as it is now.
Okay, this is actually very, very odd. So, suggestion, overclock that gives more HP at the cost of move speed. Now, actually, I think the next suggestion is actually quite important for this, but what they said is that the default move speed is probably not something they touch. And I think we actually kind of need to pair these two. And I'll explain why once I've read it. So the one above it is suggestion being overclocked for armor, and it's probably something they could play around with at some point. And I think they should, by the way. It'll be a way of sort of introducing sort of class-specific, almost perks. Basically, that's what that would be. Basically, overclock for your armor rig, and I think the armor rigs have upgrades, and also it's not something that they're that attached to the identity of the armor rigs because they don't really have that. And I feel like overclocks is something that they don't have that they could reasonably give them to spice them up. So I think there's good reason for that. But I think that the thing below about an overclock that gives more HP at the cost of move speed, that it might be in like a paired suggestion, like it might have been, because that overclock wouldn't work on a weapon, right?
Yeah.
That would be because that suits what armor rigs do, but obviously none of them change move speed. And they were actually correct in what they said in the context of it being a suggestion for an armor overclock, because it's essentially changing your default move speed. Because obviously you can increase your move speed with upgrades and overclocks, but they're like situational or have to be like done. Something has to be done for them to be activated. But this is something that will just make you slower in general. The only example of that is guns, weapons, and even that's not your default move speed. That's just while you're firing. So
yeah, and it's the issue of then it is that thing though. If they mess around with the default move speed in any way, like permanently, it would then make the balancing of like dash and second wind or slowing down of guns really scuffed. Because all of a sudden those guns would slow you far more than they ever intended to if you're slower, or they speed you far more than they ever wanted to if you're quicker.
Well, in the context of hypothetical armor overclocks, one that would work would be like for gunner, like a tank style overclock, where it would make you even slower when you're firing, but it wouldn't change your default move speed. You could make your weapons even heavier in exchange for something, but default move speed they wouldn't touch. So I think that is an idea there, but they got it wrong in terms of what Ghost Ship's principles are. So yeah, that overclock is obviously, I don't think it's necessarily a good idea, and they wouldn't want to do it. But the armor overclocks, I'm glad that they're quite fairly receptive to that.
Was not a no. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's not something they're exactly playing around with, or as it is, right? But it does seem like that might be a path for future content.
I think it absolutely is a potential path if they, and it's good because it's not something that they've done before. It would be new. It's not a new mechanic. Obviously, overclocks aren't a new thing, but they'd be putting them on something they haven't done before. And I think them acknowledging that as something that they wouldn't necessarily be against is a very good sign, because they need to like understand the avenues that they can go down when things get less. Once they've sort of run out of things to add to, which as in they've run out of things to add to like newly, as in because obviously they can add to everything more and more. But when it comes to adding things for the first time to things, like new perks and overclocks hasn't been done yet. But yeah, I'm glad they're acknowledging that avenue. Speaking of ones that they don't want to acknowledge, and we're probably going to be pretty quick at this, it's just a suggestion, which is overclocks for tools. Very, very common, gets asked pretty much every time. And they don't, oh well, if you want to be really pedantic, they don't think they want that.
No.
And, I'm sure they're actually talking about it, considering how often it's suggested, but it's still a no for now. That's basically how it is. What?
Yeah, but I think it is interesting that, like, we have seen this many times, and that is, like, normally we get the same answers for these questions, but, like, it is literally word for word every time they're asked for it, players should be able to expect tools to work the same way in every game. Or like it's always players should expect other players to have the same tools. Like it is word for word the same shit. They are so concrete on that being how that is. It is interesting, especially since we completely fucking disagree.
Well, I don't completely disagree. I just think there's a very obvious workaround.
Your workaround is 4 new classes, Harry.
No, the workaround is subclasses, isn't it?
Yeah, but even then,
Overclocks. Overclocks. No, sorry. Overclocks is a different discussion. That's not a workaround. That's just making them work. The overclocks don't have to inherently change the tools that much, which is why I actually believe maybe this would be a workaround. It's just bringing all the tools up to 5 tiers of upgrades, and that way that's something people can always see as being available. And even the ones that get more extreme, they can still understand there's a chance that someone will have them, and they don't even have to make that extreme.
It is something worth noting that the tools do change, right? Like the upgrades change them. You can have a driller with 2 satchels or 4, right? You would be able to expect whether or not he has 2 or 3 or 4, right? So that goes against this logic. In that regard, what they already have in the game goes against this logic. They're just drawing an arbitrary line that no, that's too far.
They just highly overestimate how much people value those functions. The only one where it really affects things is changing the shield around, because it can be very small or short-lived in ways that people aren't necessarily used to.
Like there can be a
big disparity with how the shield, how long it lasts and how big it is. It still functions the exact same way, though.
Yeah, still, but that is literally, that goes against the exact thing they're saying here. I also really like that, they don't know exactly what they want, but they think that players want this.
Well, they haven't actually said that. No, they think that players should be able to expect that. They didn't say that players want that. There is a difference. They're not speaking for us. They're speaking for what they think players should expect.
And it is what that isn't the case.
Well, no,
because 2 to 4 satchels, or giant shield that lasts no time at all, or a small shield that lasts 3.5 fucking hours, or 2 turrets, or 1 turret. Like, you can already not exactly expect what they're gonna have, and it's I don't know, it's an arbitrary line. Because as you mentioned, just the 5th tier mods or overclocks, and then go further with an entirely new one. Like, they're just drawing a line way too close, I would say. But yeah, it's just kind of annoying, to be honest. It's just the thing I just can't agree with them with.
Remember that. I mean, we'll basically leave it there. But remember, they haven't actually had to cross that bridge yet. No. Or they haven't had to face it yet, and it might change when they do. Who knows? Suggestion: upgrades for grenades could happen. And I can kind of see it happening. They are grenades. I think there's a reason why they are just grenades as is, and that's because they're grenades. They're not a tool. They're not something you hold on to, and they're the least part of you when it comes to the things that you can choose between.
I think the new grenade, obviously, additions may have made them realise how shallow grenades are as far as what they provide to a dwarf. So yeah, that might be where could happen comes from, because I'm pretty sure it was never used to be a could happen. It was more of a nah.
Well, it's more if we didn't really think of that, or we're just not sure. They weren't ever really necessarily against it, but because they probably just don't care about grenades that much. And there is an argument for that they didn't. I think they actually should do this, but they just shouldn't go very far, because I sort of see it as like how the pickaxe upgrades are now. As in, I think they should do more of that. But I mean, like for grenades, you should have like 1 tier for each of them. That you could just choose a little difference, and they could get interesting.
Damage,
stop there.
Ammo,
well, damage, ammo, or something silly, basically.
Whatever fancy thing it does, like stronger pheromones or some shit.
Well, no, I feel like you would have like the damage one would be relative to what the grenade does, and then you would have something that adds like a different function. But yeah, I actually think they should do grenade upgrades, but they shouldn't go too far with it, because if they put a lot of effort into grenades just for them to not really increase, like, you know, if they did like 3 to 5 tiers for all the grenades of upgrades, that would just be annoying, I think, to have that much choice on something that is so like futile. It's so limited in terms of being a
Yeah.
part of your kit. But I think having a little bit of extra choice would be nice, and it would be a good way of them sort of adding more variety to the grenade choice without making more grenades. So yeah, go for it, but just don't go too hard. More bugs suggestion. Absolutely guaranteed to have more bugs each update, and even between updates too. I think they're being funny. I think they're talking about bugs, you know.
Yeah, they are. They're being funny because they're not adding the thing they should be adding. All right, moving on. Boy, just add more bugs to your bug game. What the fuck?
Bug game. Okay.
Yeah,
It was.
you fight Cliffords. Exactly.
Suggestion: cosmetic toolkits for armor. Right, would be cool, but there's no system for that. They'd have to go through all the armors and make space for a new cosmetic slot. I don't really know what. Like, first of all, I don't know exactly what suggestion means, and I don't know how Ghost Ship are interpreting it either, or how the guys are interpreting it. You know, how I would interpret cosmetic toolkits is just splitting the armor up into pieces that you can like mix and match.
No, I think they just talk about like a belt.
Cosmetic toolkits.
A toolkit.
Well, I think toolkits is often refers to it's like a technical thing as well. Like in the game, a toolkit is like a system that you would use as well. It's built into the game.
Well,
that is how they're responding to it as well. They're talking about systems that would be added, but also they might not be because they just mentioned making a new cosmetic slot, and that would be for something. I think they should. If we want to go for the simple interpretation, they should make a slot for things that you can just slap on top of your armor, like a belt.
I just really like how they say that it can. They could do a cosmetic overhaul. It would be as easy as or not as easy, but as laborious as going back and adjusting all the cosmetics. Like, they never said that it would be difficult or impossible for them to make a new cosmetic slot. It would just be effort. That's what they're saying with that, and like making a new system for it, which I really like because that means they could actually sort out cosmetics if they wanted to. Not like they're really cosmetic toolkits or whatever that is, but like for armor. But it's just more generally that it's just about them being asked enough to sort out cosmetics and like add more like different areas to it, and that's basically that confirmed. It's possible. It's entirely possible. They're not like coded out of doing that. So yeah.
Okay. Suggestion: another class. Okay, hold on. So I'm only going to touch on the last part. They don't want a class to stop being used because of a hot new thing, and that would be the case. And the only way it wouldn't be the case is if they had actually added more than one new class, which also isn't going to happen. So we might as well forget about it.
Yeah.
Has you got anything to say?
No.
Suggestion: give blank calls for Greenbeards. No. I mean, why would you? I don't see why you wouldn't necessarily, but also why would you?
They get some.
What?
They get some, I think, right?
No.
You get given them
Not
during the
pre-promotion.
holiday events.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
They do get cause, and that.
Yeah.
Just can't do anything with it.
Okay, so
Actually, I'm not even sure that's true.
right. Okay, Hazard 6. This is so. I actually, to be fair, when we covered this before, I feel like they haven't actually given this reasoning, even though we know it's the reasoning. Or they haven't used a number. Doubtful. Hazard 5 is played by maybe 10% of players, even less would be interested in high difficulty. We won't spend long on this, but that last part is wrong. As in, pretty much everyone who plays Hazard 5 would, I think, would be interested in Hazard 6. They'd be interested. I feel like. But
Sure.
They're right in saying most people wouldn't play it, obviously. But Hazard 5 already exists. That's the thing. And there's no reason to make Hazards. There's no reason to waste effort on Hazard 6 because it would represent the same, if not less, number of people. It
would then just be less players on Hazard 6, and it would be like 7 to maybe 5% of players play on Hazard 6 like reliably, and then it would be like them asking for Hazard 7. That's what it would then just be.
I know that's also true, but I take a slight issue with the wording, where it's like I think everyone's always going to be interested in the highest difficulty, especially if they introduce a new one. but it won't be enough interest to make it worth it. Still, it won't be enough long-term interest to make it worth it.
But I think like they can't keep dismissing the urge for a higher difficulty, because
do it in different ways.
Yeah, they just need to implement it in a way that doesn't rely on Hazard 6.
It doesn't rely on hazards at all.
Or mods. You can't be relying on mods to fill people's urges for the game.
But you can rely on mods to fill like niches.
Sure,
that's it.
But a higher hazard is not like higher difficulty is not a niche. It's it's part of the game.
5 is quite a few, and you consider the amount of difficulty variety you get from the warnings and even double warnings. Personally, I don't think they owe it. But it's still not a bad idea to look into more difficulty options. A suggestion: option for only the host to call the drop pod. No plans. Even if the host is for it, the other three might be against it. It's a question of communication, and apparently voting doesn't work either.
That implies they've tested it.
I think they have. I think they have tested voting. Yeah, I don't know where I stand on this really.
I think you've got to kind of apply
it's
overall.
Fair to not give it to one person. I think that's pretty obvious.
You've got to apply like an overall point of view of this kind of thing. Like, every so often, some speedrunner will join your game and press it immediately, or some new person will press it immediately, even though there's like a machine event that you missed. Right, that will occur. And like things will be opposite. Maybe the host, like you join a game and the host is a really slow player that likes to really slowly do stuff, even though everything is done and you know it, but he's like still exploring the cave. It's both ways, but generally, most of the time, it's not really an issue. You just kind of, once the objective's done and everyone kind of knows, everyone is just there, you just rock and stone, and then once there's enough rock and stone, you just press the button, and it's like, it's just kind of generally fine. It's only just sometimes some people don't do it the exact way that some other people don't like. And that's where the issue comes from, which isn't really worth a huge thing like this. Like making the host God, or adding a fucking politics voting system. I
also think there is some value in the etiquette that the community formulates. And I feel like restricting it, it's the way it kind of is the way it should be, even though it allows for. It's not like it really allows for trolling. It's very difficult to troll with that mechanic. I think no one ever really does it to annoy anyone else either. I think it is probably just best left the way it is. I don't think it's affecting enough people's experiences enough.
Yeah, I think the only thing that could really be done as far as what on their behalf is maybe I don't know, maybe like for the first until you're promoted, like pop-ups near the end of missions if you're with playing other people, saying there's always more to explore in the cave, so don't press the button immediately or something like that, or some people prefer to take their time, so keep that in mind. Some of the things that the community will say if they bump into the community, go on the Reddit, maybe they should insert into the game to kind of let the greenbeards know that other people play the game in their style and don't interrupt that. And there's not much you can do with the speed running legendary 3s that join your game when you just wanted to chillax. But
they do that. They join other people's games just to finish them quicker.
Well, yeah.
But
that's
there's no way that's common enough, really, is it?
I mean, I don't think Tom's a big enough dick to press the button immediately, but people do join people's games halfway through, so they get their missions done quicker. And if they join a game halfway through and the fella's just kind of loitering around, they'll just press the button and get over and done with. What it is there's not much they can do other than try and enforce the general community stuff in the game. You know what I mean? Like what I just said, rocking and stoning to kind of make sure that everyone's ready to leave, next to Molly, or ping Molly and rock and stone, stuff like that. If they could just put that in the game so that etiquette is reinforced for new players, that would help. At least help the slip-ups of new players that don't know any better, right? It won't really help the like twats and higher levels, but you know, that would be something. But I don't think a system needs to be put in place.
I don't think it's a big enough problem, really. I think it's actually pretty robust the way it is. Suggestion: pick up and deposit loot bugs. Have you seen the intake grinders on the drop pod? Yeah, it would be cruel. It's also a joke suggestion. So.
Do it.
I'd probably consider the next one a joke as well. A kid-friendly version without guns and swearing. Don't think that'll happen, however cool that might sound. I mean, it doesn't sound cool.
Now, the issue is, Harry, is that wasn't a joke one. Like, it's just ain't a joke one. It's like fair enough. You have a child, but like, come on, you know, like, to play a nicer game.
Exactly, it's never going to be worth the devs' time to completely rework their game into a fully child-friendly version. It would just be a completely compromised and pointless experience, and like, I feel like it would just be useless for a child, a child who's at the stage of development in their life where they need it to be that simplistic. It's not worth giving them. It's not worth giving them a game that has such an idea behind it. Children at that stage, they just need simple games that can teach them things.
I think there's a line that can be drawn. Honestly, a no swearing mode would be, I think, reasonable. Just an option like in streamer mode where you turn off the voice lines that swear in them.
That's fine.
I think that is completely fair.
A sensitive mode. You could also remove blood.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. But the guns is a bit much, considering that's the game.
Also, you get guns in like cartoons that are shown on.
You got Bugs Bunny with like a revolver, like often, stuff like that. But yeah, no, I think swearing, there's merit there. Guns, far too much. But yeah.
The old reliable. Suggestion: overworld biomes, probably out of the question. It's Deep Rock Galactic, not going back to the surface Galactic. We can sort of just put this down to a surface or overworld biome. It wouldn't be a conventional biome, it would be a whole another venture entirely.
It would be where the game was before Deep Rock, right? Because they went to the surface. I think that's why it's called going back. But yeah, it's just not having. The game isn't made for it either. As mentioned, you were in a giant box in a cave. They can't do that in the overworld. But yeah, just a different game, a different time, maybe. Maybe go play a game that isn't entirely in underground. Go play Minecraft or something. With like mods, like a lot of mods on, I imagine. And you might be able to get like Deep Rock on surface. Yeah.
Ignore. Suggestion: tooltip explaining several doors repairing Doretta. As in explaining the fact that you can't do it faster with multiple dwarves. It's a set speed for repairing Doretta. It doesn't change with multiple. And they said maybe it shouldn't be possible for two dwarves to repair Doretta at the same time. Yes. So implement that. Go on. That's clearly how it's meant to be. Or make it so that it does repair faster. Do one of those things. Don't just leave it as it is. It's a little bit. It's just confusing.
I think the two dwarves not repairing it faster was on purpose, because if two dwarves could repair it quickly, it would kind of break the balance of the final boss fight. Like it kind of would. Like just be like, when you're just repairing it, like you're just like not making it die. That would never really occur if two people could just shoot it straight up to full health, or four people could like insta repair it, right?
But it doesn't help when you have multiple people repairing it and they don't realise that they'd be better off just doing something else. So I feel like there needs to be something put in place, and I think it should just be only one person can repair Doretta. I think that's simple. That can't be too difficult.
I think maybe the option should even appear, or what this person asked was a tooltip explaining that only one person can repair it.
If it's a pop-up when you start repairing it when someone else is, but that might be a little bit weird to implement.
But just a pop-up whenever you're repairing it, like just only one person needs to repair Doretta, and then it goes off. And so that is just there in a green beard or in a player that just doesn't know his mind.
I mean, I fix it if I'm in a game with sort of just lower level players who might do that, and I'm repairing, and they start repairing as well. I'll just stop repairing, and I'm probably better off in combat anyway. So there's sort of you can sort of have personal workarounds, but based on the way it's intended to be used in the fact that you can't have multiple people repairing to accelerate it. It means that they should probably
Let
have
everyone
that
know that.
be represented by how it actually works, as in don't let people do it. Yeah, right, too much. I don't even know what that is.
That's a bunch of
And
jibber
whatever
jabber.
it is, they say that it's possible if Unreal Engine 4 supports it. Okay. But suggestion: Switch version, probably never. It doesn't have the memory needed. Now, I don't think that's probably true. I think it's probably the RAM needed because of the procedural generation. It's not like it's a big game. They got Skyrim on the Switch, but the Switch is a pathetic piece of hardware. That's the point. It's the earliest current gen console, but it's definitely weaker. I think it's weaker than like 360s. So yeah. Suggestion: optimize the PS4 version. The issue is that the PS4 is ancient at this point. They'd love to, but at some point it becomes hard to keep it up. It's probably not worth it either, the PS4.
Well, no,
It
because I
does
imagine
so
it's the
well
same
on
with
PC,
the.
you've got Xbox, and you've got the PS5. But people can still play it on PS4 as well. I think they don't need to. There's not enough incentive for them.
I imagine it's the same with the other Xbox, right? Same with like whatever the Xbox. It's just literally it was like really struggled, but then just next gen is fine. It's sad, but it's just the fact that not many games are going to be catering to an outdated system. That's kind of how it works. That's kind of how it's always worked. But yeah, shame. Crossplay.
Crossplay, probably not in any form greater than it already is. Maybe someone will have a change of heart, but it's not planned. It would require. It would just be a lot of effort, and there's a lot of reasons why.
It would be, crossplay is one of the things. It's a shit ton of effort to do in the first place, by the sounds of it. Like ridiculous amounts of effort to do it in the first place, and then you have to keep it up. Like it's not something you just kind of do, but it's like it's just going to make everything more effort down the long run as well.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that it would
all
mean,
the updates.
and that means they would be later on Steam, right? They would have to be, right? Because they can't
Yeah,
change the way
definitely.
Microsoft or Sony certification works.
So that's something that people need to know. If you play on Steam version and you ask for crossplay, it means you're going to be getting your seasons like 2 weeks later. Like that's what you need to be knowing what you're asking for there. But they'd probably still take it because they just want to play with friends. But yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Suggestion: rework Haunted Cave / Elite Threat. Not planned. That they need reworking.
Yes.
But Haunted Cave, sure.
Haunted Cave could do with more alternate haunted things. Elite Threat could be reworked into not a warning and just part of the fucking game.
I mean, it definitely shouldn't be. But whatever.
Sure, you beta cuck. Yeah,
Not
that's what I
reworks,
thought.
overhauls.
Real chads always want Elite Threat.
Would you consider
It's good.
adding
Elite
more
Threat.
ghosts
Thing is
to be a
that-
rework? Or just an overhaul?
Yeah, no, it would be a rework. But Elite Threat is like, is that as rare as Haunted Caves? Because I've not done an Elite Threat in months. It's just not a thing that occurs anywhere close to
In my
often.
opinion, I think they could do treating Elite Threat differently, basically. Have Elite Threat be almost considered another form of, not literally considered another form of difficulty, but I just think there's an argument to be made for giving mutators more presence in assignments anyway. And I think, I don't know, maybe Elite Threat should just be a more common warning.
Yeah.
Just to make it feel like more of a part of the game. And also, I think Elite Swarms isn't a bad idea either. Normal missions. But in general, I don't think it necessarily stops at those two either. I think there's a lot of work that could be done.
Yeah, the fact that they're thinking about reworking warnings and they completely ignored parasites is kind of wild.
I think very few of them are problematic, though. I think most of them are fine, but there's a lot that they could do. And especially in the case of something like parasites. We talked about that before.
Yeah.
Right, this is pretty weird and broad. Suggestion: season to tie in previous seasons. Not sure. This is actually important. One of the lessons of season 2 was that it might be easier / better to come up with a new theme. That was pretty obvious from what we looked at when it came to like the stats, like the year review stats, when season 2 was the lowest since season started. Right? What?
The concept art book, we already done that one.
I forgot about that, but we're talking
right.
about this.
You just skipped it.
I wanted to talk about that as well. But right, the suggestion is important. What they said though about the lessons of season 2, it might be easier to come up with a new theme is very interesting.
I literally, when I realized you weren't doing the art book, I did not listen to anything else. But shit, now, yeah, that is well, that's completely and utterly fucking revealed it, right? Like we were dead on the money there. In that, yeah, they learned shit from season 2's complete not bar, right? Like, it comes down to
you
the fact.
combine the fact that it took, like, they put in a lot more effort into this anniversary and all the things like that, and that they have sort of, there's been a bit of a course correction in the fact that they're not just probably not following up season 3. It probably explains a lot when it comes to the planning taking longer than usual. So
yeah, and I think
it's important stuff. This is.
I think they might try, but this would definitely be something worth talking about in a more elaborated form. With this confirmed, I think this could be like a podcast thing, right? But like part 2s don't have to be following up part 1, right? Roblox part 1 is season 3. Maybe this season 4 is like, I don't know, ass-eating monsters of the ass alien section, and they've come here to eat our dwarven asses, right? And then season 5 is Roblox part 2, right? That would then be different, because I think that's the thing, right? Nobody wants 2 of the same things, but that doesn't mean that they hate Roblox or they hated robots. They just wanted something new then, and then the robots would become new once there's been a season of this stuff, right? If you know what I mean. Like, 2 of the same things being followed up is like, oh, but like if it's just split up by something new as well, then it's new again, if you know what I mean. Like, they can do Rockbooks again. My point is they can do Rockbooks again, but just don't do it immediately. Do it like in another season or 2. If they don't want to do part 2s, they don't have to do it immediately. Just do it later, and it will be new again. More Rockbox, hey, instead of more Rockbox, that's how it would be if they just wait a couple seasons to release part 2s. Is my point. But yeah, the fact that the fact that you're not talking, is that just mean you want me to stop talking? What? Is that what this is?
No, I just think I don't have a lot to say. I just think it's just an important thing to note, and that it might explain a lot. We'll see if it explains a lot. I mean, it will become, I guess not more important. I guess it will just become more true if it turns out season 4 is a completely new theme, and that really be, and this just makes it a lot more likely, basically. Like.
This very clearly points it in that direction. That well, in their words, it's easier / better to come up with a new theme.
Because we wouldn't think it would be easier. I don't know how it could be easier, to be honest. Better though, it'll be better for them. We know that, but I don't see how it could be easier.
It might not be easier coding wise, but it might be right. Think about it, right? They can come up with new things. Well, that isn't easier. You can basically just do like the first things that come to mind, or something like that, right? Like they could just be like, yeah, parasites, and then they do the parasites. But now a part 2 of the parasites would have to be where do we go from here? Right, and I think that is probably a harder question to answer than just coming up with a new idea. What can we do with the parasites now? Where can they go? What is the next step? Is probably more difficult questions with more difficult answers than what's new can we come up with, right? So I think that might be where the easier comes from. Obviously not like the coding part. I mean, the coding part is probably still hard. Like even once they've already got like robots down, right? They don't really have to like code in like the explode on fire bit of text, but it's probably it's just more coming up with stuff is probably easier when it's brand new and you don't have to worry about what came before it and what needs to be worked on after. And obviously better is literally referring to the giant spike we saw in season 1 and season 3 that we didn't see during season 2 in the player graph from the like stat reveal. Like that is what they're referring to by better. New seasons get quadruple the amount of players, and making a part 2 just didn't do that. It just didn't do anything of note to the player base and the size of it. So Yeah, I think that is confirmed that they picked up what we picked up from that, and they're definitely they're thinking about this. That's like an active thought they have, that new themes are just kind of better. And season 2 was a misstep in their eyes. I think in that regard, at least they acknowledged that they learned something from season 2. But it's likely then that we're never really going to see a season 2 again. We're never going to see just that kind of season, which whether that's a good or a bad thing, we'll see. But honestly, fucking amazing sentence that we might be able to do like an entire podcast on, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm going to stop you from doing that now.
Yeah.
Let's just do the one that we skipped. Suggesting concept art book. They would love to, but physical stuff like that is both expensive and difficult to do. Plus, there isn't much concept art from early stages. Well, there's probably enough. At the
They
same
don't
time,
have to do early stages.
No, they don't.
Most things don't. Like, they could just do robot ones. Like that could be like robot and rock pox would be like the later half of the book, and then they just get as early stuff as they can early on, right? And that would be it. But I think it is more the expensive, I think. Right.
But would it be wouldn't it work? Why wouldn't it work if they tried to do this digitally?
It wouldn't.
Why not?
No. My point is that it would work fine if they did it digitally.
Yeah.
It would be
just as likely for people to just leak the images anyway.
Yeah, that's the thing. But they just take pictures of the book. But like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. They could easily do it like a bit like just the soundtrack, really, right? It's just like, hey, if you want to give us $5 more, you can look at these art. And to be honest with you, I want to do that. From the very little bits I've seen of the concept art, I'm fucking down for seeing some of that shit. But yeah, it feels like once again one of those things where they're overthinking how much they need to do. You know what I mean? Like just literally just be like, hey, you want to see an old ass glyphid fucking design, and it will give us a quid. And they're like, everyone's like, yes, give us that. Come on. And then they'll get shit tons of money from it. Job done.
Yeah. Just an audio design content. The audio designer has its own YouTube channel where he dissects some of the tracks. That's that. that's just a direct solution. That want them to. I think that's what they need. Like content. It's just content that they probably want to see stuff on their YouTube channel about audio design, but they have that. It's just not on their YouTube channel, on the actual audio designer's YouTube channel. And I've watched some of his videos. So just go check that out. Suggestion: giant spoon pickaxe. Why not?
It shows their age. My spoon is too big.
Only a spoonful. Yeah, why not? That's that. There's nothing else. That's that as well. Ignore that. Integrate FSR 2.1. No plans yet, at least. Also, it's like every time we ask about FSR, there's a new version number. Well, it's not the kind of thing that I can speculate on or we can know anything about, but there's your suggestion.
The category says it's rendering based, so there we are. There's an insight on that. It's probably helps with the rendering of the game. I don't know what the fuck
this means. Suggestion: import Minecraft worlds and play them.
I don't know what the need of probably was there. Like probably never.
I think that's just them like saying to like the guy playing. They just play Minecraft. I don't know.
They should do that though, right? Because everyone knows that they were inspired by Minecraft. One of their streams should just be them playing Minecraft just for the fun of it, like mining.
Based biome would not be a terrible idea.
Error cube based. It's just everything's error cube.
Yeah.
All blocky. That's where they got the errors.
Anyway, suggestion: observer mode. They have some internal tools for development, but nothing public. Someone should make a mod for an observer mode. I think that's okay.
That's a niche worth making a mod of.
It's definitely worth making a mod of, but it's possibly worth because it depends on how integrated the development tool is. Because would it be easy to just put it in the public build? I feel like if it is, they might as well.
Well, what would the observer mode?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It would require them to load in, but it would just be like a free roam camera, I assume.
Yeah.
But how would you integrate that with the game loading in missions and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah,
you load in a mission just to
look around it. It makes sense for them in developers to have.
It doesn't make sense.
It makes sense to developers to have, but not. It would only be useful for like content creators, where they'd like just be able to have like floaty camera, like footage, right? And I think they still managed to do that somehow. So I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be like a photo mode, but you could only really use that in single player as well. It wouldn't make sense outside of single player, to be honest.
Or like, it would have to be like footage after playing the game or something.
Tyler, that's the
like
thing. So you think like Halo's theater mode,
pretty much,
where it just replays the match or the mission, and you can just look around. You can like switch between players. You can go into free roam. Apparently, that shit takes just wizardry basically, and it's not even close to easy.
Well, I think as far as I'm aware, like that is not like actually the footage of the game like at all, right?
Exactly,
like,
it's recreating it.
Yeah, and it's just like it is. God forbid I wouldn't want to put that upon these guys. So I don't know. Yeah, the observer mode's a bit weird.
Yeah, I think it's a fine niche to delegate to a mod. Actually, it's not too bad. That's all right. Suggestion: new overclocks. Wow! And this is basically what we know. That they have a bunch of prototypes, and that they also are probably still working on more, but they had no time to QA them. That means quality assurance. It will be a quality assurance check. They have no idea when that happens. So it means it's not next season, but that's all that means actually. What?
It does mean that it got as far as they're made. They're not like tested thoroughly whether or not they're going to be balanced or like work without glitching. Yeah, like they are probably named and everything, right? Like that's probably about as far as these overclocks have gone. So yeah. I mean, realistically,
the thing is they could just do it, but I think the reason they're not doing it yet is because it's not a full-on like addition as it stands with what they've got. Yeah,
they wanted to slip them in with the other guns. They were probably only going to add as many that was reasonable with the new set of guns, right? That's kind of what it implies there. They were just going to slip them in, and there's like new guns and overclocks for the old guns. I assume was going to be their pitch, but they didn't quite get the overclocks done. But so they might be wanting to make overclocks for the new guns as well, so then everyone gets one at least, and then they might want to add more than that to kind of equal out. And I don't know, it probably is become bigger than it really needs to be, but I think they definitely have some overclocks in their pockets that they could throw out at any given moment.
But I mean, I say no idea when that happens means it could still be like season 5. It's because oh shit, I forgot what I was going to say. This means it won't be the next thing.
We don't even know that because they're not going to confirm anything.
No, because what I'm saying is that no idea when that happens doesn't mean it's a long way off, because this is something that they've already just done. They've done a lot of work on this already, basically. I just don't think they want to have just release what they've done alone, basically. They just don't know exactly when the rest is going to happen. That I guess. More beers. Johan dreams of them making new beers someday. Well, it's not like it's something that they don't do.
Is that the one that was on our stream?
Johan, yeah.
Yeah, he was talking about he wanted the Christmas beer, didn't he? Yeah.
Maybe it's just Johan. Maybe it's the only one.
He's pushing for it. There wasn't one. It was just he wanted the new beer, and they're like, nah. Which I guess is going to be a thing at this point. We shouldn't expect beers. We might get, well, I guess we're technically getting an anniversary beer, but like, yeah, it seems like the beer for our holiday event might just be Oktoberfest, which makes sense, but it's also, I don't know, it's what it is. But yeah, go on, Johan. Get some more beers in the game.
Go on, do it for us.
Definitely do with them. It's been a while. Well, I guess it's been from Oktoberfest, really, right? Then before Oktoberfest, it's been a while.
Okay.
So yeah.
Suggestion: make the Steam Awards hats available again. Not sure, but that request comes up fairly often. That's because of the Bolted Marauder, which is the Viking hat. Not the only one, but that's the reason why that request comes up. They mentioned the anniversary hats for some reason, which are definitely not coming back, which is absolutely fair.
It's just because
I think the Steam Awards ones will come back if they win.
That's never been applied. It's more that because I've heard them talk about this in the stream. Hell, it might have even been this question. I'm not sure when I heard it, but their thing is basically like the only thing that they don't like. The only thing that they actually want to be like, not FOMO, but like the only thing they want to be that you had to be there is the anniversary hats. They don't want the Steam Awards hats to be
the fairest thing.
Yeah,
they don't want
people. Yeah, they don't want Steam Award hats to be like you just had to be there. It's more that they just haven't really had a good enough reason to slip them back into the game in like a normal pool. But I think it just requires just adding them to the store when a season occurs and just like pretending that they aren't that special. But yeah, apparently it comes up fairly often. So they probably will do something about that, considering they are by no means against it. So yeah. And then they got a hot topic following up next. A cute elf girl miners to appeal to female audiences. There won't be any elves, and also that didn't sound like a request from a female audience. He is dead on there. Let's be realistic. That was entirely a guy. He would not have used the word cute if he was a woman.
Cute elf girl miners.
Cute elf girl who's around my age. It's like a fucking date request. Yeah, like.
Wow.
I think no elves, and obviously they didn't actually really touch the for female audience thing because they did touch it before. There was a whole video on that. If you want to go,
I think they just want to stay away.
Yeah, they dealt with it there and then, and it's not something they want to dredge up. So yeah, but well, confirm no elves. Which realistically, I was always in the impression that if they were going to ever add a fifth character, it would have been an elf, just to change things up like radically. But it's not probably not the best idea. But then again, neither is a fifth character. So moving on.
Maybe they should have an elf character, possible, but not as a class. I don't know. I just like the idea of like the dwarves being like a mercenary type season where you take bounties from different people and you actually have different like mission controls basically. Whatever. Suggested procedurally generated flora. They don't have any systems in place for that to happen. That would be the game literally coming up with plants on its own.
Yeah, that's what
No Man's Sky does, right?
Yeah, and that was literally what No Man's Sky was based on. That's what it takes to do that kind of thing. From the ground up, procedurally generate that shit. And obviously there is no systems in place for that to happen. There's no system in place for it to procedurally generate assets. Except that there actually is, and I think I may have just watched this stream to be honest, but they mentioned that the trees in the radioactive biome, I think it's that one, kind of just picks out its own sticks, like where it's going to put them, basically. Like it has like its own randomized like a procedural generation of its twigs. So that is something that does it, I think, in the game. At least he thinks that's the case. But yeah, pretty weird. But yeah,
they arguably already have it how it should be. I don't see how the game just inventing new plants would help it.
Yeah, it would be a lot better if they just, make them themselves. They'll look better. Because the procedural shit in No Man's Sky looks ass most of the time, and you can tell the procedural parts. The amount of different animals on different planets that have identical body types and heads and stuff like that, it's just, it's... Procedural generation is not all it's cranked up to be. Unless it's cave formations, and they fucking nailed it. Moving on. Ping menu for specific phrases. What does that mean? Oh, right. So when you ping something, instead of picking randomly from the pool, you actually get to pick and say, like, combo bud here instead of other combo bud options.
Yeah, right. I guess that's what they mean. I mean, unless they don't mean it really in the ping sense, they just mean you should be able to use certain callouts. But I feel like I don't know. Either way, the ping/callout system is very specifically designed to work as efficiently as it does. As in, there's really only two callouts that you need, or ways of doing that you need. There's saluting, which can be like thanking someone or congratulations, or
Thanking,
affirming
getting attention.
getting attention, and there's pinging, which just gives specific callouts for whatever you're pointing at. It's done exactly the way it needs to be, basically, in a very simple fashion, and that was very deliberate as well. So I don't think they want to change that. The ping system, they actually put a lot of thought into making it as simple as it is, which is pretty interesting. But the salute was a really important part of that as well.
Yeah.
In early development. Suggestion: cafeteria with sandwiches on Space Week. Don't know when that happens because it will. I mean, I think they've talked about like being open to expanding the rig, and I feel like this is a very obvious one.
I think, I genuinely think we should do a full-on video of this at some point. But like, this could be a pretty cool area where like it's like once you've promoted like 10 times, doesn't matter like who with, but promoted like 10 times, you'll unlock the cafeteria, and then it will unlock the sandwich system, right? Which, as we've elaborated, and I will not elaborate on here much, but it's the next tier of mission customization, which is like a difficulty slider thing.
I think you should already get access to mess hall, but you should be. It's like that would be like getting a pass to go into the kitchen.
No, I think you should unlock more of the rig as you play. I think that is a very pleasant thing to do. Because obviously that's the thing, right? You see the forge and you see the deep dive menu, and it's like, oh no, you have to promote, and that's like interesting.
They're not rooms though.
Yeah, I know, but that's the thing. If you saw them and that baits you to thing, and then you like explore later on, and you see a door saying promote 10 times and then come back, baby, right? And you'll be like, oh, I don't mind if I do. Grinds out 10 fucking promotions.
I mean, 10's obviously a bit much. I mean, for them.
Yeah, no,
it's way too much for them. But you could even have like the memorial hall be off limits until you can actually promote for the first time.
Yeah, I think that would be
the
really
first step, and there'll be another thing. But no, the reason why the cafeteria makes so much sense is because we know it exists, and we know it exists because it's one of the places that the dwarves go. Which is why it is the thing that makes the most sense for them to add next as a place to the space, like room in the space. Yeah. Because the medbay was arguably really established as well. I mean, the medbay is pointless, by the way, but still.
Pretty much, yeah.
I think the cafeteria makes a lot. If they choose to do make another area of the rig, it will be the cafeteria, and it's not like it's unlikely either.
Medbay should have a menu that tells you how you died, right? And it should, because clearly they keep track of how people die. It should tell you what made you lose the mission and what your biggest threats are, right? Because that is not only A, random shit information that they like gathering and like, they have it on the thing, but B, useful, right? Because I know for a fact that other than full damage, trijaws are going to be up the top of that fucking list. And I already kind of know that. But like, if you realize and use those statistics that it is already tracking, just doesn't show you, you would then be able to tell what your biggest issue is and therefore deal with them promptly, right? Like, if you know that trijaws have like a fucking stupidly high % chance of ending your life, you would be able to then just like kill them, basically. Like, you would be like, that's it, they're like highest priority, and that would be thanks to the medbay. If that menu was put in there, and it like, or at least just whenever you die, it has like on your like board, like died by trijaw shot or some shit, right? Like, they keep track of how you die, and the medbay would be the perfect place to show you it, and it would give it a use.
All right, cool. Well, that's a different suggestion entirely. But
yeah.
Sure. Either way.
And cafeteria for the sandwich mechanic.
They played a mod that actually includes a mess hall recently, but that's not something they would leave to mods if they wanted it in the game. That's too big for them to be like, oh, we like the idea, but there's a mod for it. It's something else. So I think the chances of this happening are high, and if they choose to expand the space rig at all, the chances of it happening will then become 100%. So I don't
know about you, but if they expand the space rig with like a giant big ass like cafeteria room, that would be showing out my fucking dreams, like legitimately. Like, I've actually had a dream where the space rig like doubled in size, and it was fucking amazing. It would be wild.
Personally, I really like the idea of the cafeteria being another place that you would load into, because it would actually include more players. It would be somewhat separate from the base hub, but that would be a bit of a bigger endeavor.
Yeah, that would be really cool, but I think would not. It wouldn't be worth the effort in any way gameplay terms. It wouldn't be, right? Like it would be. I don't know.
I'm sure they could add like just static or almost static dwarves who are just eating.
Yeah, maybe. But there's also, for some reason there is a glitch where you can have more than 4 players, right? And I don't see how. I don't know how glitches work, but I don't see how that's possible unless they're allowing it, right? Like I would imagine that there would have just been a cap of 4 players. Just like that's it, 4 players. That's all you can ever have because that's all you ever need in the game, right? But for some reason, you can go up to like stupid amounts, and maybe the mess hall would be a place that you'd load into with that like allowed, basically, and that would be how that works. Maybe so they're like the cap's taken off up to like 30, right? And 30 dwarves can like go to the fucking mess hall and make a fucking mess. I imagine rock and stone and shit like that, right? So I do actually agree that it's probably possible and it would be quite fun, but whether or not it'd be worth the effort, that's the question. But yeah, moving on.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, man. Suggestion: double jump perk. That would probably mess up the traversal gameplay, even on a cooldown. It acts the rocket jump perk back in the day. So, as in the rocket jump perk is a double jump perk.
They really don't like double jump or higher jump. They don't like affecting jump height for some reason. That is a real big no that they have, and they've said many times that that's the case.
Yeah, because it just disincentivizes using your tools. I say that only because of the existence of special powder, but in general, it's tools that help you traverse, not anything else. On average.
Although
the perk would be something that you would use more often, possibly than a single rocket jump overclock. I don't know. I think there's good reasons why they haven't done this, and it's probably not going to come back, even if they had more perks. Yeah. Because it's one they've tested and decided to just axe the idea entirely. So don't hold out hope.
Speaking of perks, this mad lad.
Enough perk slots to equip all perks? That would kind of ruin the perk system, wouldn't it?
Imagine that is a suggestion and a half, isn't
it? I'm surprised they even addressed it.
Yeah. Well, they like to address the silly ones, don't they?
Like the next one.
Yeah.
What the hell is Pizza Salad? Apparently it's a franchise or something IP. Apparently it's definitely what the game needs.
Yeah. It's a confirmed crossover.
That's how we get it.
Yeah.
Oh,
all right.
Boy.
This one again.
Hasn't 6 at least 5.5. Not impossible, but not in plans either. I mean, that's a bit more of a brief answer. I mean, we know it's possible. Actually, it's possible, but not in the sense that they can just switch. It's possible in that sense, but Hazard 6 isn't possible in the sense they can't just switch it on. But adding 5.5 as a difficulty that you can turn on would be just a bit weird.
It wouldn't be worth doing because 5.5 is barely a difficulty,
it's not
right?
Different enough. It's just not different enough.
It's like such a significant change. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. We've already discussed it. Move on. Do that. What the hell is that?
Question. Multiply to gold mine. Their in-game economy is not balanced around endgame. Increasing the rate at which new players get things may not be a great solution. What does any of that mean? What does any of this mean? I feel stupid right now.
No idea. Multiplicative multiplier to gold mine. I think they might be trying to make gold mined better. But that's not what the answer suggests. The in-game economy is not balanced around end-game, increasing the rate at which new players, implying that characters that is interesting though. Hold on, they think end-game players don't have enough money, right?
What? Where are you getting that from?
In their economy, it is not balanced around endgame. Increasing the rate of which new players get things may not be a great solution. So they're saying that this person...
That's because the only time that you get too much money is when you don't have anything to buy. You're always pretty much pressed for money when you've still got things to unlock. And that's why it's not balanced around the endgame. The endgame is basically... Well, I mean, their eyes. It's actually you still have a lot of stuff to get in the end game, but
yeah. But then, so what do you think they call the point in the end game where money then loses all value? Right? Like, like what? If end game, I mean, end game is, you know, I guess overclocks onwards, right? But like, fucking hell, like, yeah. Players that have gotten through that just aren't anything to them. It's pretty funny. All right, next one.
No.
All right.
Suggestion: grappling hook instantly recharging if it missed. Apparently, there's no plans to change the grappling hook, but I'm more interested in knowing what does it mean missed. You can't miss with the grappling hook. It doesn't shoot out if it can't be shot out. It doesn't. There's such thing as missing with it. So I don't know what that means.
I think this person just like taps it, right? Because that could occur. If it shoots out, but you don't you retract it immediately.
If it doesn't actually latch onto.
It does tick it up.
But I don't think they want that. But then it will probably be very difficult to make it relative to how far it got. So I think it's easy if they just have it be so you get punished for being bad. I think basically it might be better to just leave it as is.
Oh.
What?
I need to read the things to describe it. Radioactive bolt detonator for res. I saw res in something, deep proclink in the chat, and I had no fucking clue what they were going on about. Like, what the fuck is res? And I just realised it's the radioactive exclusion zone. I think it might be in the Reddit either. But it is, I saw res a lot, and I'm like, what the fuck do they mean by this? What is this language? But yeah. They'd like to have new enemies that fill a gameplay role / niche, and a biome specific bulk wouldn't do that. Sure, it would. It would fill the niche of a biome specific enemy.
Gameplay niche. That's a conceptual niche. And this is like, obviously this is a I wouldn't say new, but it's not. It can't have been how it's always been. Otherwise, we wouldn't have biome specific enemies at all. But
yeah, like the
on a base level, what a radioactive bulk would do isn't actually that different. You'd have to introduce it as...
it would.
For it to actually fulfill a gameplay role...
Lingering radiation.
No, it's not lingering, it's permanent. That's what it would. That's the gameplay role it would fill.
Lingering would be enough. Lingering would be enough. It would see... Because once the detonator's dead, everything is okay. Right? But if it lingers for even like 10 seconds, that is a gameplay feature. The fact that even once it's dead, you're still not that better off. And if that thing has died in the middle of your giant fucking swarm, you're probably kind of screwed.
That's just a bigger version of everything else that already does that.
Exactly.
That's not a role that isn't filled. I mean, just Praetorians. Right,
but Praetorians do that and oppressors do that, and it's not really. Still a bigger version of that.
I just mean they wouldn't like to do it now. They probably would have done, but it's just a change in like just principles that they don't necessarily need something that's just a bigger form of something that already exists.
Sure, which I think is a good reason, but I would counter that reason with everyone wants a radioactive bolt detonator. All the other enemies have a radioactive version. Just do it because fuck it, right? They do it because fuck it before. Why do you think the grenade launcher has Fat Boy, right? That's the whole point. They don't do things just because they're fun anymore. They have to have gameplay roles in a niche. Like, what? Come on. Radioactive bolt detonator. Come on. Just do it because it's a fucking radioactive bolt detonator. Like, it's a nuke machine. Like, what? Since when did you need a good reason for that? And that's something. That change in mind.
Since when was fun not a good reason?
Yeah.
Since when was that not the best reason to do anything?
Yeah. And since when was that not the reason why they did stuff? And they added a fucking nuke thing to the grenade launcher. Now make a nuke enemy that definitely makes sense in the game. If there wasn't radioactive variants, fine. No one would probably someone would think about it and that would be cool, but oh well.
It's really stupid that there's radioactive exploders in the first place. It's not like there's frost exploders.
That addition inherently implies a radioactive bolt detonator. It just does. It just does.
Well, a frost bomber implies a radioactive bomber. And a radioactive exploder implies a frost exploder as well. But
Sure.
maybe that's just
But
what it is.
also
You
no.
get a frost exploder, you get a radioactive exploder. There's no crossover there.
No, I like no, but I'm not talking about crossover there. I'm talking about in the biome. Exploders are radioactive. Why isn't bulks, which are also exploders, radioactive? That shouldn't make sense, right? All exploders in the radioactive exclusion zone are radioactive in nature. And if a radioactive exploder turned into a bulk detonator, it would still be radioactive in nature. It would make sense world-wise, be fun, and would technically add a gameplay role in that you would then not be able to do anything in that area for a too long period of time, right? Like, forever is too much, but like maybe 30 fucking seconds, that's a gameplay feature. That means you don't want to be killing that in a bad place or you're screwed, right? That's a gameplay role. There, I've given you every possible reason why you should ever add any enemy. Just do it now, come on. Like, add a radioactive bulk detonator, just fucking do it. There is no good reason not to. Like, it's a radioactive bulk detonator. Like, come on.
What it should do is, because the reason I said permanent is because that's not something anything else does. So that's why I said that. But what it should actually do is permanently irradiate the terrain. It shouldn't be an aura, it should be terrain. So if there's permanently radioactive like edges of the carved zone, basically. It's like what that guy did with the mod, where it literally turns it into uranium, like the edges of the terrain. It wouldn't be exactly that, but it would be irradiated. And then it would always damage you. It's like hot rocks, basically. It's like creating hot rocks.
Exactly. That's why I'm not a
You
huge
could build on
fan
top
of
of
it.
it, though. That's the point. It was something that you'd have to traverse around. It's
I'm
not something you just
thinking-
can't avoid at all.
I'm thinking 20 to 30 second radius, like what the Exploder and Praetorian already does, right, when they die. Just a radius of radioactivity. But when the explodey things fly out of it, that implants uranium sticks or whatever they are, right, in the ground. So then the giant crater is full of radioactive sticks.
That's fine. Yeah. That's a good idea. I just think it's a better. I still think it works for the concept, but it also would work better for them if it had this niche of creating a permanent hazard that you can still get around, instead of just creating a temporary aura that's unavoidable, or even a permanent aura that's unavoidable. That wouldn't be fun, permanent aura, but a permanent hazard that you could still work around, that an enemy creates. That's more of a idea that isn't
even still. It really shouldn't need this.
No, but I think that would still make
should
it
have
better.
been a given.
It definitely should. But hold on, let's talk about the next thing then. First of all, okay, suggestion: Mecha Rival Tech Dreadnought. Ooh, that'd be fucking awesome. Because it's just cool. Comment: a cyborg type could be cool. Why not?
Yeah, that is the thing though, right there, right? That is it. Which one? Pick, right? Like and it needs to fill a gameplay niche. Do they just hate the radioactive bulk detonator idea? Is that just what it is?
I think they might actually just hate that idea, because
I think they just actually fucking hate that idea.
Because also, like, a cyborg detonator, dreadnought would be really cool, because that's how you would bring back the rivals. Basically, is that they've started converting like the natives into robots, so they've made their own.
That's essential. That would be a very terrible. That's just the rock pox. That's repurposing the glyphids into their own thing. That would just be the rock pox. It's like, come on, I get the robots didn't work, but that doesn't mean every new enemy now needs to just be a glyphid copy, right? Like, it's a bit lazy, a bit sad if that's what it ends up being. But yeah. The point is, they're fucking changing attitude. I think that's because the thing, though. They have considered radioactive bulk detonators. For that one, they're like, yeah, sure, yeah. But like, they have that's really the difference here. Is they have actually sat down radioactive bulk detonators and they've come with no, and this is why. Meanwhile, the other one is just like, we don't even consider this an option, so we're not going to bother like giving an actual answer. Like, that's the difference in responses.
Oh, anyway. Molly customization. Unlikely. If only the host who sets session controls it, it's a feature for a quarter of the players. That's the biggest argument and a fair argument against it. Okay, hold on. Could be that each player chooses a sticker though. Sure, why not? If there's like some kind of Molly, like Bay.
I didn't realize this means session. Yeah, no,
you know what
nice.
this comes down to? I don't give a fucking shit about customizing the mule. That's what it comes down to, and I can't be bothered to address this. I just don't care about it. It's not going to be. It's not valuable.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, because it would have to be some kind of workaround or some kind of compromise.
I think the sticker thing is pretty cool though.
It's not a bad idea, but it's also a compromise, really.
Yeah, if you don't give them everything they want, they're still going to complain. But the second one is, if anything, a better idea, because then you could apply it to when Molly isn't around. You could apply it to like the actual like point extraction point, right? You could put stickers on that instead. But obviously, yeah, either way, you'd have to make an entirely new terminal just for putting a sticker on something, right? Like.
Exactly.
And it's not really worth the time and energy, really.
If everyone could if there was like a Molly like workshop, and everyone can interact with her at the same time, like you just spray paint, and it's just what she looks like for the next mission.
It's like a ship in Sea of Thieves. Every time, well, except like the new ones, because you can actually like save it. But like every time, it's a completely fresh one, and like the players all come together. Well, someone just picks their cosmetics, and then someone else can just be like, "Now, fuck that noise," and picks their own, or like they mix and match their ones. That would be what they do for Molly. Everyone had the ones, and they kind of just fight for what they want Molly to look like until like they leave or something. The session ends. Something like that would work, and would probably be the solution there. Just session-based customization for Molly. Yeah. Moving on. Logo/fag patches to put on your armor. Oh, a patches idea. That's been a while. As in, I've not actually seen anyone else really do it.
They might have talked about it, and it would be cool, but they don't have a system for that. Well, I mean,
they can put it in.
That's the thing is,
they've confirmed they can add a system. They would just have to then, as they mentioned,
they could add a system. They just say they don't have one. Doesn't mean they can make one.
No, earlier.
What?
Remember the one earlier when they said, they don't have a system for it. It would require them going through all the armors and adjusting them, and that's what it would do. They have to make the system and then go back and sort it out. That is what this is saying they would have to do. With them saying they don't have a system for it, it means they would just have to make one, which would be. Going back all the armors and all the dwarfs, which wouldn't be fun. Finding a place to put a patch, if there's not one, making one, and then doing that. Adding a system to then put patches in that area for each armor rig for each dwarf. That is what it would take, and it has never been implied, at least, that would be impossible. Just annoying.
Worth it. That's a lot of cosmetics you can get out of that.
Yeah,
it's easily enough cosmetics to make it worth it, and it's a very simple argument there that I don't think can be refuted. There is more than enough that you could come up with.
As I mentioned a while ago,
do you have flags. I don't want like real flags. First of all, I don't like that in games, to be honest. I just mean every logo that you could implement for that.
Yeah,
and little pictures or illustrations. Even like you could. That's a good way to implement fan art. Even if you want.
Yeah. This was like a pretty dead issue for us. Like we stopped talking about it for a while, but like how you play the game based customizations. In that basically you kill 100 dreadnoughts, you get a dreadnought sticker or something like that.
Kill 100
patch.
elite threats, you get that logo. You know.
Yeah. 1,000 elite threats, and I don't know. You
get gold one.
You get the elite title.
Yeah.
Shit like that. That is something. That is what I think the end game of it should be, right? Infinite promotions and character decision-based cosmetics. The way you play the game being represented by the way you look and where you can design yourself.
Probably shouldn't let ourselves get carried away with that.
No, that is just what I'm saying. Is that's what the end game of this game should aspire to be.
And what I'm saying, it's pretty easy to say. It's pretty easy to see why creating this system would be worthwhile.
Yeah,
It would make it so much
really
easier
would
for you to fill out the cosmetic, like the performance paths in the future. That's the best argument I can give for you. But don't do it.
Honestly,
Just do
it would be so easy. They might have to like add 2 rewards per tier, because there would just be like the final tier would be a badge saying you completed the pass, right? Which obviously, and it also has to be
badge,
3. It has to be like 3 scripts as well, so they'd need like both there, 3 scripts, and a fucking badge, and that would be like it. And it's just
say like S3 in like the font, even.
Yeah, just like and there'd be like badge throughout. That like one badge would be like a rockbox infestation, one would be like I don't know, like the vacuum the spewer together and like a cross. Basically, very simple designs that would be free pass filler and cosmetic choice. And if they could have like 3 badge options, and then shit would go wild. But if they just want the one, then that's something. But yeah, it would be entirely worth it for a literal gameplay.
Having to put multiple badges on is the best thing to do, though, right? Because that gives so much more differentiation that you can achieve between dwarves. It basically it makes infinite the amount of differences that you can have between dwarves if you can have multiple different badges.
Because as it stands now, if like a group of people that actually cared about what they look like and made themselves look good, the chances of them ending up looking identical is quite high. Because there's not that many good looking things.
So easily, especially if you can have multiple.
Yeah.
But like I said, pardon me, we shouldn't get carried away on this. More cosmetics though. A pack inspired by Team Fortress 2. Probably not. They don't really do collabs. Same goes for Terraria crossover. Well, it's not. They haven't done one yet. That's the thing. It's not like they don't do them. They haven't done one. Like when you say, "Oh, we don't really do them," that's like you've done it once or something, and it's not really your thing. They haven't done it at all. Okay.
Yeah.
But
I do like
they don't have to do that.
They mentioned same goes for Terraria crossover, because I bet lots of people have been asking for them. And as mentioned, I bet Terraria has slipped them a DM. I like definitely on their radar of Terraria's radar of like indie team that makes good games. And I mean, they were both fighting for the fucking passion one, right? The
Labour of Love award.
Labour of Love one, yeah. So like Terraria definitely knows about Deep Rock, and it definitely meets their criteria of crossover.
I'm gonna up here they got another thing to do with collabs. Collab with whether that is or Dark Tide. Dead by Daylight. Not necessarily they like to keep the integrity of the game. They just want to keep it Deep Rock, I guess. That's fair. Like even in the context of the weird stuff, like even all the event stuff, even though it's based on sort of like real world holidays and all that kind of thing, it's all like sort of like company provided, like crappy cutout stuff that's made. It all fits in the universe. To be fair.
Yeah.
They would think that's fine.
The thing is, if they wanted to play that, you could like. I think it's more of a moral company standpoint. I think more in the game, because you could easily just say like, if they added a Terraria headgear, right, like the eye, like as mentioned, like Terraria stream like recently, just slip in that Terraria is just a game in the universe and they're cosplaying, right? It's an arcade game in the cafeteria. Or some shit, or some area that they never intend to add, right? In the arcade section, there's like Terraria, and they made their own
Terraria have your weapons. That's the point. That's the end game of this. That's what we want out of it, because we know we're not going to get a bunch of Terraria stuff in this game because it just wouldn't work.
Really, it'd probably be like the Thunderhead and like stuff like that. Like, I mean, because like the Hurricane, the minigun. There's more getting to that. Sludge Pump, yeah. But yeah, basically, it is. I wouldn't say it's moral. Like they're not like on any form of high ground, and I don't think like they. Well, it's the second one, arguably. Like honestly, they're saying keep the integrity of a game, implying that a game doesn't have integrity if it does crossovers.
No, that's not exclusively what integrity means. Broadly speaking, integrity just means like keeping to itself. Like whole integrity of like a ship. Yeah. Whole integrity is how much it stays together.
It makes sense because they had immense collab potential with Power Washing Simulator, right? Like they were seriously. Yeah, they were seriously like
It arguably
any
is.
moment now.
They've
They
arguably
would have.
done it in their way.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
So I don't know. It is something that they could do very lightly and very in universe, but it seems like just something they just don't really feel like doing. They don't really feel like going down that route, at least not yet.
Yeah.
Like
Another route they're going to go down. New class. Let's talk about this. Yeah. As like I said, it's a no. And there's like you got the no, and you've also got the fact that it becomes less and less likely as time goes on. So it's just people aren't going to stop asking, but everyone who's asked isn't going to ask again. I hope.
Yeah,
but it's just too many people.
Disconcerting. No.
New biomes. I hope they get to eventually because they probably got a bunch of ideas. And you just make a season just themed around the company just going to those biomes.
Well, I think it's interesting.
You don't have to make excuses for yourselves, basically. If you've got new biome ideas, just work on them.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, though, that new game mode was met with an and like, we don't know when we're going to do it, but new biomes is, we hope to get to it eventually. You know,
well, it's probably a lot easier to come up with biome ideas because they all kind of inherently work.
Not to mention they have one on the back burner. Like, because once again, they never actively were like, nah, fuck Caustic Maya. They were just like, the bloody, you know, hollow brow. Like, yeah, it's, so yeah. Moving on. What is that?
Change the way we talked about this. It's just about they just talk about majority vote, and there's no good solution for this, which I kind of agree with. I think.
Yeah.
The only good solution is just leaving it as it is. As in, it's not a problem enough that it needs to solution. Okay, yeah. Suggestion: the Brood Nexus from the board game in the video game. Apparently, it's one of the few models that survived since early development in its original form, and they've decided not to update it. Well, that's a change.
That is a.
For the worst, by the way, because it does look slightly out of place, and you said you were going to do it.
It looks very out of place. It looks ass.
It looks ass. And you said I think they specifically said that those two they want to change.
Oh, I realized Brood Nexus. Brood Nexus is not as bad, but the Spitballer. It definitely could do with a bit. It looks like plastic Lego. It looks like a Duplo thing in the game. It is goofy as fuck, which you know is quite opposite to its violent and scary nature.
The things that Spitballer leaves behind, like it's sort of like falls on the ground, they look like Among Us characters. Next time you see them, Tyler. Next time anyone sees one. Yeah, I hope they do that, but I guess they're not going to now.
Yeah, that was a pretty confirmed not anymore.
Suggestion, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. They not anymore. That's like a bigger... I think that's one of the best ways of saying no. I mean, that's one of the best. Suggestion, Steampunk themed DLC. The art director might not be very keen on the whole Steampunk aesthetic. Fuck your art director. First, also, the upcoming framework isn't too far off from Steampunk, but at the same time, based on what they said there, that means it's probably the closest we're going to get.
Just needs like pipes and cogs and that kind of stuff, right?
Everyone likes Steampunk.
Yeah,
it's one of the most universally appreciated aesthetics.
Doesn't like good holiday hats, so if I
I don't know how much I trust your art director, to be honest.
Honestly, I would not be surprised if their art director had nothing to do with all their DLC content.
It would explain a lot, wouldn't it? Because
the stuff that we get in-game and the DLCs are different. They're different. Like, yeah. And if you're watching, anyone at Ghost Ship is watching this, we apologise, but we also don't take it back. Your holiday headgears are reliably terrible in design,
I'll go
and
a
do
step
not look
further,
cool.
Tyler. I don't mind doing this. All the holiday headgears are absolutely fucking disgraceful.
Yeah, the fact that they are made by the same people that make the DLCs and like the new fucking frameworks and like some hats is ridiculous.
I've never been more sure of cosmetics being objectively worse than other cosmetics in a game than these holiday hats in Deep Rock. They are objectively bad compared to everything else. And that is a fact! That is a fact!
Yeah. I mean, seriously though, the fucking... You compare the hat, the rabbit hat, from the new fucking Lunas thing.
Well,
Whoever,
the previous one, they're not all bad, by the way. That's the thing. They're not actually all bad. Some of them are better than others.
Halloween ones hit quite often. Christmas is real hit and miss. And yeah, even the Luna one, last one was alright. But yeah, it's just
you got the fucking the Oktoberfest one where it's just, I just want a barrel on my head. Kind of.
Whenever they make it out of felt.
Tyler, things. I want just a barrel on my head more than I want a barrel on my head with a mat underneath it and a tap on it. I want just a plain barrel more, and I think everyone else does as well, and I think that's what it comes down to. I don't want to get stuck on this again.
Yeah, but I just want to say, whenever they're designing this, if Ghost Ship is watching this, whenever whoever designs these hats decides, you know what, I'm gonna now choose like felt colors and make it look like it's made out of fabric, shoot them in the leg and make sure they don't do that again, because it just has only ever made things look worse than it could have been. It's just a fact. So moving on. Bad art director, bad. Steampunk is cool.
Suggestion: add DRG mods. Also, popular mods and space game features. No plans, and they play with mods but don't add them. Well, yeah. To that one, they're not going to add mods straight up. This one's a little bit different because I think that they might have. I think they've talked about like the randomizer one, but like I don't think they could see it happening like soon or exactly as it like is in the mod. But they're also not going to add mods like straight up as features. They're not going to just take them and add them as features. And most of them probably don't work anyway. Like the randomizer mod probably won't work.
Yeah.
But that's probably
that would only work as a mod. I think honestly, when most people say stuff like this, they're really just referring to like the numbers on damage stuff.
Damage numbers should be a thing. But there's a good reason why it isn't actually, because people don't understand how damage numbers won't actually be like they won't be like it's not like they won't be accurate, but they won't mean exactly what people think they mean.
Plus, they really don't like cluttering the screen more than it already is with like UI. I think that was the thing in actually like a stream like the other day, so that'll be like beginning of next episode probably. But yeah, they're not fond of clutter on the UI side of things.
Yeah,
so,
I don't think they want the game itself to encourage the maths that much either. I think it does by leaving a lot out though, but only for the people who care. And I think there's tools for the people who like Carl.gg. That's not a mod. That's just that's a public website, and that works for those people, myself included.
That's why it's like I don't know. It's more like feeling based most of the time. It's just like, does that feel like it does enough damage to warrant your choices, right? Like, do you feel like you run out of ammo far too quickly, more than statistical numbers, like stuff like that. But yeah. The mods would fuck with it, but otherwise, other mods they could take notes from, like they did, right? The anglometer on the drills, that was a mod.
But they thought it was like a good enough idea.
Yeah,
and
it's very good enough and very simple enough. Yeah, I think they should have done anyway, an oversight, arguably. But yeah, that's pretty cool. But yeah, no plans. But I don't really think they should have plans for that stuff.
Suggestion: make flares less bouncy and more rolly. They could, but probably not going to. Well, the only way flares are going to get changed from now on is through perks, and also they really need to be changed. I think that's why they got rid of the upgrades.
Right.
Flares just don't need to change. There's nothing about them. There's stuff that they could do with them, but the only stuff you could do with them that's interesting enough is giving them like combat function, and that would just break the balance if suddenly your flares can be like used as grenades, basically. So
yeah. But if they messed around with these flares, but then added a anti-flare enemy that sucks light, which I have something to say after this, then yeah, that'd be funky. But it looks like they might not. But that is an interesting warning though. Although I take it back, fuck warning, anomaly, dark cave anomaly, or like consuming darkness anomaly. Don't make it a warning. Don't do it. Bad game, bad ghost ship.
When it comes to increasing the amount of darkness, I would basically just forget about that, because
that light has on everything.
That just an anomaly can't. That is arguably a straight up negative, and an anomaly can't be a straight up negative. Which is why I just want an enemy that hides that avoids light instead. That's what I
Or
would
you know,
say.
a giant boss that turns off enemies' lights. It'd be weird if that idea was around for a while
Enemies
now.
lights.
Yeah. Well, like, I mean, I'm like an angler-based enemy, right? That'd be pretty cool. It's got like a flare, but then it's like not a flare because it's a fucking giant gaping mooring creature. Point is, those two are pretty funny together. Although I mentioned they tell a story in that they were talking about flares, and then some guy came up with that enemy. I imagine. But yeah.
It's been around for a while. That enemy I did. Or just one that hides in darkness.
But he probably just came up with one himself, and that's not what that is. Yeah, and then 3 cosmetic ones to round it off. The things that I think probably get us the most unwarrantedly heated.
Woo! Suggestion: medieval fantasy cosmetics. No plans. I wonder why. You're right, director's an idiot. Also, we don't straight up need any of that stuff, because you think about it, in game the only stuff that's straight up that is more of on sort of the cosplay side of things, like the first Oktoberfest hat. You know, it's quite Robin Hood-esque. Things like that is all sort of just silly cosplay stuff, and that's why I think they see it as like literal. I don't want literal medieval armor. I want deep rock medieval armor. Like
I want
like
a
tech-based,
rusty
like,
sci-fi great helm.
Yeah. It would still be technologically based, but it would be medieval fantasy themed. Based. But at the same time, I want to give them a little bit of credit in that I don't feel like they necessarily avoid doing the obvious stuff. They just kind of don't do this stuff. They just do a good job at coming up with original armors on their own.
Yeah.
To be fair, it's not like they've done anything that really comes from the real world, and they haven't had to. But if they did, I feel like sort of people would want sort of knight style or samurai armor style.
I think a samurai helmet would be very warranted, but yeah.
And that's so juicy for full face and half face, you know.
Yeah. But it would once again be pretty cosplay, but I don't think that's inherently a bad thing.
No. Suggestion though on more armor variety, and I
Harry,
think what
I just thought the plague mask is kind of a huge fucking exception to that, right? It is so clearly a IRL thing that they shoved in because they knew people would lap it up, and that is something. that is something. Yeah. Generally, I still agree with them. I think that's how they see it. But they did kind of like, we're doing plague stuff. We'll throw in a plague mask.
They didn't do like a plague doctor cloak.
No, obviously, because they didn't really want to do armor variety. Is what moving on from that. I just couldn't let that obvious exception slide when I realised it. But yeah, hopefully. The variety is mostly fine, but most of it will come from DLCs.
No, most of it is from DLCs. That's an acknowledgement.
Okay, good. Because I thought it was the other way around. I thought it was they're only really going to add DLCs from now on, but yeah, because I think we should hope for like more marks of armor, right? Like I think that would be fair. Just like,
well, it depends on how much sense that really makes. I guess. What could a Mark 6 really be without it being like? I feel like there's no point. Like lore-wise, there'd be no point going further unless you're considering like absolute perfection, and it'd be something very high sci-fi as well. I think it'd be the most sleek but also definitive armors.
Then maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's when they're like, or maybe like when they add like a shit ton of overclocks, like basically management's gotten better equipment. That's basically the update of the season that would warrant a Mark 6 armor, or like maybe a reward for all this strife. It's like, here we made you some really nice bits of armor. Wear it, something like that. But yeah,
I think the problem for me, not for me. I think the problem for them, what they've seen with the way that they add things now, the way they add cosmetics now, they're not going to add in-game unlockable armor sets, because if they do, it would be in the performance pass or cosmetic tree somewhere, but they can't have that be expected of them every time. But they would like, that's just how it would be in some way. Either everyone would expect it, or they would expect it of themselves in some way.
Yeah, I mean, when season 1 occurred, I was kind of expecting an armor set in the tier tree next time. I wasn't expecting a framework. I was expecting we get a framework armor set, a bit like how we've been getting DLCs, except it's not that exact combo, but between the two. But no, yeah, they're just doing frameworks constantly, which I would argue, isn't that a lot more demanding? Like, having constant weapon frameworks. There's a lot more weapon frameworks, and I would argue probably a lot easier to make 4 armors than...
Yeah, but that's less content.
A lot of...
That's less items in the cosmetic tree.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
They do need to find a time to just add another set of in-game unlockable armor that is either Mark 6 or something more Scale Brigade-like sort of its status, and just do that. Just one more, I think. I
think, yeah, whenever they find themselves have the time, just slip those in. They will always be rewarded. Like, everyone will always be like, fuck yeah, like, hell yeah. You know what I mean? It will always be amazing. It's just a shame that at this point in time it's only ever through DLC, which they do make note of, obviously, there, and I think I remember them mentioning it before. And it's still the case during the anniversary one. They didn't give these anniversary... Well, actually, they didn't add armor in this DLC. So that's something, I guess, right? Yeah. Which, in all fairness, we could expect... No, I'm not going to say it. Right.
What a send-off.
Last one.
Wow, what a finale. Bring back the Bolted Marauder hat. That's the Viking one, basically. That's the honeydew hat. They haven't talked about this since it was released. No plans. Wow, no, like, woo!
Alright, well, that was this month in the Dev Q&A.
That was Splenuary.
Once again, thank you to the person who makes this.
Yeah, that guy.
Hopped on. Don't say it, Harry. Alright.
We're done here. We're done. Wow. I can say whatever I want now.
No. Alright, I will say what I want. Goodbye, please.
That is genius.
Yeah.
It's so smart. Oh my god. Next week, this is a good break from the tier lists. I think it's given me a lot of time to get confused about what I actually think about the weapons. It's good.
Honestly, I think the more recent I use them, it doesn't. I don't know, it's weird, and I think it especially happens to you though. I think you can't use them immediately. You need to use them and let them sit. I think
that's good. That's why I'm getting it earlier.
I guess. Yeah.
But that'll be next week.
Next week we'll be starting the secondary tier list haul.
Oh my god! Here we go.
And I think we should probably assume that it's going to be a 3-parter again. Because I imagine we can still talk about just as much the secondaries.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, so be prepared for that again. And then once that ends, it'll probably be another one of these, right? maybe a week. Maybe a week
it
of
might
that.
be. Well, hold on.
I mean, in all fairness, we're going to have to slot in some anniversary stuff.
No, we might have to. That's the thing. It would be another one of these. I don't know where we'd be able to slot that in, though. I think
the anniversary because.
Yeah, I suppose. I don't know how much there is actually going to be in terms of videos to make.
Not to mention, this series is the Dev Q&A. Therefore, the anniversary stream, Dev Q&A, would be a very reasonable goldmine for this stuff.
There's also that, exactly. But there'll still be all of February.
Yeah.
There's a chance that there's not a good enough reason to do that as well.
Yeah.
Because the anniversary will be prioritized. We'll see. If I might do. Chances are, if it's not like obviously worth doing, I might do a video where I literally just point out the interesting stuff.
maybe. Yeah, if there really isn't time to do this month in this manner, or next month, well, no, this month. Yeah, it would be this month. Do this month in this kind of like manner, especially if we'll have the. We won't have any time, right? The fucking thing will be coming out. At least we won't be able to do it in like a prompt manner, I guess, right? But yeah. What is, for now, signing off.
If you enjoyed this, please make sure to like and subscribe. And hit the notification bell so you can catch our next dev Q&A video. I'm going to eat the screen now.
Like,